Hello and welcome to a somewhat rowdy start to Compass from the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras. Now, same-sex marriage is quite a popular theme in this year's Mardi Gras, ironically with a, quotes, real wedding taking place behind us on the steps of St Mary's Cathedral, which is rather nice. Now, this, of course, is a hot topic across the country and across party lines too. Now, over the next couple of weeks, Compass is going to look at this issue quite closely. Next week, I'll be meeting people over dinner, people who are for and against this notion of equality in marriage. But tonight, 3 couples who say they would get married if only they could.
Welcome everyone today. My name is Jason and I am duly authorised by law to solemnise marriages according to the law.
Every day of every year, somewhere, sometime, someone's getting married.
Well, today Jamie and Anne celebrate what's been a really good journey together already, and it's an honour for all of us to celebrate with you, so thank you on behalf of everyone here for letting us share with you guys.
This timeless ritual is about celebrating the legally binding union of a man and a woman to the exclusion of all others.
I promise to be your strength, to support you through the hard times, so that together we'll come through.
But in Australia, not every loving couple has the right to marry. What does this mean for them? How does it play out in their lives? And with all the rights now afforded to same-sex couples, why do they want to get married?
Now, Jamie and Anne, will you have your vows sealed by the exchange of your rings today? Right. Can we please have the rings?
Jamie, you are my best friend, my special boy, and my handsome man. I'm so grateful for what we have together, and I look forward to spending the rest of my life with you by my side.
There aren't many great days in life. Maybe the day you're born, but you don't remember that. The day you die, well, you're not here anymore. Might have a 21st or a 40th or something. But the day you get married is one of those great days.
Jason has been a marriage celebrant for 10 years, and over that time has officiated at more than 700 weddings.
Jamie and Anne, it is now my absolute pleasure in front of your family and friends to be able to pronounce you husband and wife. You may now kiss your bride.
Weddings are something of a family business. Jason's partner of 13 years, Adrian, is a wedding photographer.
The best ritual is the exchange of vows. It never goes away. You exchange rings and you say these words to each other. And every time I well up when I'm capturing a wedding.
Most weekends, Jason and Adrian are helping couples celebrate a union they can't have.
I solemnise each couple's wedding and do all the paperwork and pronounce them husband and wife and wish them all their happiness on their way, but I'm not able to have the same thing myself. It's kind of ironic. If you're a heterosexual person and you grow up in Australia, you know that one day, if you want to, you can get married. Once, twice, 3 times if you like. And you can have a family and you can do those things and participate in community and in the culture at large and be accepted. If you're a gay person, you don't have that pathway at this point in time, and this is wrong.
I guess the issue of same-sex marriage didn't really mean much to me until I'd had a long-term, permanent relationship. And I suppose that's pretty normal for most people.
Julie and Deirdre live in Orange, a big country centre 250 kilometres northwest of Sydney.
We've been together for almost 12 years now, and it sort of After a while, it becomes a bit redundant saying, "Oh, this is my partner." What does that actually mean? You know, you can be a partner
Partners
with anybody,
in crime.
yeah. Gym partner, walking partner, you know, it could be anything. Most people think gay relationships are this exciting, far-out, crazy idea that's living life on the edge, and it's like, yeah, we're just cutting up vegetables and feeding the dogs like you are, so...
That's right. I mean, we did the same things young people did, and then you get settled and then you put on weight.
Yeah. Hair goes grey, all that stuff, yeah.
Deirdre and Julie are both country girls at heart and grew up not far from where they now live.
I grew up on a farm. It was cereal crops and sheep. We'd go to church every Sunday with my 3 brothers and 1 sister, all older. I was the youngest. And we'd have to sit there quietly, and I remember singing along to the choirs.
Mum and Dad were Anglican, and growing up I remember going to Sunday school and being sent to the Catholic school across the road, literally across the road.
As a young girl, Julie and her family planned for the wedding they felt sure she would one day have.
Every country girl I knew had a glory box, which was to be filled with things for when they got married or started their life anew when they left home, and I was no different. My great-grandmother had this little Bible that was always in her handbag, and when she passed away, my mother inherited it, and then when she passed away, I inherited it. I was engaged for 6 months when I was about 20, 21, something like that, to a man who also turned out to be gay. So these were an engagement present from family.
Although Deirdre and Julie feel part of their community, they would dearly love the added acceptance that marriage brings to a relationship.
We've actually been together longer than my oldest brother's first marriage, which lasted 10 years, I think. But we're not accepted the same on the same level.
I think in the general community there is this feeling that if someone turns up, you know, with a bride or a husband that's been around for 5 minutes, then instantly there's that recognition of the status of the relationship, whereas we could be together for 20 years and not get married and it won't make any difference. At the end of the day for us, marriage is about being joined in a partnership that is formalised, that is recognised, that has social gravitas to it, that has family blessing. I think that public declaration of love and commitment is surely the ultimate coming out experience, whether that be for a straight couple, you know, saying, well, this is our love and our life and what have you, or whether that be for us and saying the same things. Love is love.
You might be able to sleep on the top.
It's breakfast time, and in the inner Sydney suburb of Newtown, lawyers Anna and Mina are getting themselves and their 2 children up and ready for the day.
Having children does make me think about marriage differently, because I am thinking of the world that of their perspective of their family and of our relationship. How can I explain that to them? The government won't let us get married because we are considered to be, we're different. We are not a man and a woman, we are 2 women. And in that lovely way that children ask, why? Why can't you get married? And those why questions are very hard to answer.
But I think as well, in explaining it to the children, you have to say, well, we don't think it's fair. This is the rule. Sometimes there's rules that don't seem fair, and this rule at the moment is not fair to us. There's no other way of to put it in their language so that they can understand and to explain it.
In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen.
we share space.
Childhood experiences of family and faith often influence later ideas about marriage.
I was brought up in a Catholic family. There's 4 children. We went to church every Sunday. We went to Catholic schools, both primary and secondary. I have these core beliefs at the centre of me. It shapes who I am. And I don't agree with the church's formal position on sexuality. Neither do I agree with it on birth control or on HIV/AIDS. But that doesn't mean that I don't claim that I am Catholic. And so marriage it's changed now in meaning for me, being in a lesbian relationship. For me, it was a continuation of the sacraments. So in Catholicism, there are the sacraments that one receives, which is a particular gift or a closeness with God. And so I have received the other sacraments and I won't receive marriage in that way. So for me, that's an exclusion. I feel very clearly excluded from that. And that's a grief. That makes me feel sad.
I grew up Hindu and I have that as my cultural background. Brought up in a fairly traditional Indian family, but also living in suburban Australia in the late 60s, 70s, being part of an Australian world and then coming home and being in a fairly Indian household. For me, marriage always had the connotation or always had the connection with the concept of an arranged marriage, because that's how it was, that's what was presented as the way it would be in my upbringing. And I guess from a fairly young age, I sort of started to rebel against that. The idea that I would not be able to choose somebody of my own choice. I don't think personally I need to get married to Anna to cement our commitment in any way. I think we've done all those things by way of financially integrating our lives, having children, making life long-term plans. The question is, why exclude? And that becomes the most important symbolic aspect of this whole debate is, why can't we? It's not that we would all run off and get married if the option was available.
Jason and Adrian are also parents. 5 years ago, Ruben came into their lives with the help of a surrogate mother in America.
You can't win. The 2 of us, plus Moselle, who was our surrogate, without the 3 of us doing what we did, the little boy who's playing out in the yard wouldn't be here now. And he has been an absolute blessing to the 2 of us.
I feel we are more of a family. Not that it was less of a family, but Jason is my family. But having a child, having someone to bring up into this world, who is mine, who is ours, and our extended family, my mum, Jason's mum, you know, our friends, that's become part of our life.
And Ruben's, for me, the biggest miracle we could ever have had a part of. I mean, if you had told me 15 years ago we could sit here, have a 4.5-year-old son, I would have said that's not possible. Now we've got this beautiful little boy and our family, and Ruben is proof that God exists for me. And yet people say the opposite to us, you know, somehow there's something evil about all of this. But he's actually some faith that's been made real. God, thank you so much for today and for this beautiful food. Please continue to bless our children and our families. Amen.
Jason was raised a Christian and became a Church of Christ minister as a young man.
My mum and my nana were Christians. Nana originally was a Catholic. Mum was Protestant, I guess, and then they both ended up in the Salvation Army, and I was in the Church of Christ. And when I was 20, went and undertook a theology degree in the US. You're expected to get married to be good in ministry, and so I had a girlfriend while I was there and didn't have to have sexual relations because it was expected not to, so that was quite easy. But I couldn't marry her or be a good husband to her, and knew that my orientation was what it was.
When Jason met Adrian, he was forced out of the ministry and his church, but held on to his Christian faith and desire to one day marry.
I don't think God could care less whether someone is married to a man or a woman. I think he'd be happy, or she'd be happy, if you're in a stable long-term relationship and having a family, because I think there's a real blessing in being not selfish and being with somebody.
Prevented from marrying, but wanting to formalise their relationship, Jason and Adrian devised a commitment ceremony instead.
Our mums walked us in, and we had 80 guests at the Heidi Museum of Modern Art, and there wasn't a dry eye in the place. And we just made it up. We had, friends sung some Christian spiritual piece, and then we had another friend sing a song you used to sing to me, which you don't sing anymore. That's okay.
Jason, please accept this ring as a constant reminder of my love.
And the commitment I've made to you today.
The commitment I've made to you today. It was a really great day. I was really nervous because it was new to everyone, new to us, all of our family and friends hadn't been to a same-sex ceremony before. I think that what we had was a beautiful thing. We had our family and friends with us. It wasn't a legal wedding, legal marriage.
And it's this lack of legal sanction that puts many same-sex couples off commitment ceremonies.
Commitment ceremonies are a bit half-baked, I think. It's kind of, we're making concessions, but we're not actually going the whole way. Everybody just gets married. They just get married because that's the whole hog, isn't it? It's the whole 9 yards. And why would we want to do any less? I'd get married tomorrow, but if you said, I've got a commitment ceremony ready to happen tomorrow, I'd go, I'll have a good time. I won't be there. Maybe I'm a bit old-fashioned. No. Although I'd have the diamond ring.
Mina, what's the story with the corns? How long do they take?
More recently, some Australian states have introduced what's called a civil union. This affords couples many of the same legal rights and responsibilities as marriage.
I think for some people a civil union would be what they would choose to have, but it's about being excluded from a particular way of recognising our relationship, which is marriage. And for me, marriage has particular significance. It does have the element of my faith and God within it. So it's more than a civil union, and I would want the possibility of that.
And I just ask the question, why is a civil union good enough? Why is that all we can have?
A decade ago, barriers to same-sex marriage were breaking down overseas. Jason and Adrian were quick to seize this opportunity.
In 2003, Canada legalised marriage, and we were thinking about having a family at that stage. So we flew to Toronto in January of 2004 and were legally married at the Toronto Town Hall with some friends of friends who were our witnesses. Having said that, we're only married in 8 countries. It depends which country we're in, whether we're married or not. So,
I get married for that, for the same reasons as everyone else. To declare my love and commitment for Jason, to gain the social recognition and the legal recognition that marriage brings, and the fact that marriage is a universal term. It says that your relationship is legitimate.
The best thing about being legally married in Canada was having the celebrant conduct the wedding for us, and I found that really meaningful and very special, and it was quite an honour to have somebody else do what I've been doing for people for over 12 years.
Marriage changes perceptions about a couple. We're not boyfriends anymore. This is my husband. Why does it look wonky?
Because it is wonky. And you're off, we're off limits. There's boundaries. These boundaries need to be respected. You don't have a right to come in and treat us as if we're single-person entities or something, And it's, we just take it for granted. It's just but that's what happens when you get married.
After their wedding in Canada, Jason and Adrian asked the Family Court of Australia to validate their marriage.
And so we started the court process, had the first hearing, The government and other parties were invited to petition at the next hearing and present their case, and I think it was a week and a half or so before the election that Mr Howard and the Liberal government changed the Marriage Act.
Aware of the boom in gay marriages in America, the Howard government has moved to lock down this country's marriage laws. In a new bill, the act of marriage will be enshrined as the sole preserve of heterosexual couples.
With gay marriage all the rage in America, the changes here are designed to thwart any similar attempts at legal recognition and to shift the issue out of the hands of adventurous judges.
To insert into the Act the commonly accepted definition of a marriage as the union of a man and a woman to the exclusion of all others voluntarily entered into for life.
The court then said there was no case to be had and refunded our money, and that was it. So in some ways we kind of set it all back because we are not married in this country. But having said that, it's actually caused a very good focal point where I think it's August 15th every year is the Equal Love Rally Day. And it's been going for 6 years now, and it's not dying down.
And let's remember the huge numbers of the public who are increasingly coming to understand that this is a human right, it's a human right denied, and that...
I don't think anything in society is unchanging. Culture's not unchanging. Everything is changing all the time, and marriage is changing all the time. It's a concept that has changed throughout the centuries. Concepts of property, and the woman was the property of the man. That's changed. That's not what we think of in marriage any longer.
Once upon a time, it was unacceptable for people of different races to get married. In my lifetime, it was, as I was growing up, it was completely unacceptable that I would potentially marry a non-Indian. And I've just seen in the last sort of 15 years, 20 years, how many of my peers in the community have been able to enter into relationships with not people of different cultural backgrounds and then get married, and the societal and the community familial acceptance of that.
The experience of family is central in all conversations about marriage. Indeed, protecting the ideal of family is foremost in many arguments against same-sex marriage.
One of the arguments for keeping straight marriage and keeping gays out is that marriage is about procreation. Okay. Most of our friends are straight, not gay. And I think half of the people we know have had to use IVF to have their children. So if procreation was purely about marriage and if they weren't able to use assisted reproductive procedures to help have children, they wouldn't have their kids. Yes, 15 years ago, surrogacy for gay men wasn't an option. But it is now, and it's a wonderful thing.
This time it's a kitchen.
I've heard said, a child needs a mother and a father for good outcomes, and in fact they need their biological mother and their biological father to have good outcomes. Now, that all might sound really nice, but the reality is that's not the world we live in to start with.
Look at him. He's really tiny.
And the best indicator from my research that I understand is that if Adrian and I love each other, Ruben will have a good outcome. If we start to hate each other and not take care of each other, things might not go so well for him. And I find that really interesting.
Asha!
If marriage is about children, then again, it's another very good argument for why we should be encouraged to get married, especially because we have children, and we should be encouraged to give them the stable environment of a socially accepted institution of marriage.
Australian attitudes to same-sex marriage arguably shifted perceptibly in the lead-up to last year's federal election.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. I've been a plumbing contractor for 37 years. I support with a social conscience the Liberal philosophy. I have a gay son, and I overcame my ignorance and my fear of gays and the idea of gay marriage. When will you, Mr. Abbott?
Penny, you say that you support your party's decision to be against gay marriage even though you are gay yourself. How can you sit idly back and allow yourself to remain silent about the obvious inequality that you are kept in?
Hello, Julie Proctor. We're having this debate now because these relationships are legitimate. You know, if you're happy to take our taxes and you're happy to, you know, have us teach in your schools and work in your hospitals and whatever else, why not this bit? Why not this last bit?
If anything, we uphold marriage. You know, there are arguments to say that we weaken the institution of marriage, and that's pure and utter rubbish, because if anything, we're quite traditionalist in that we upholding it. We want to be part of this.
The only thing radical is that we say, hey, we want in. And that's radical in itself, because we're saying we want something that everyone else is entitled to.
Fabulous. And it's a human rights issue. It's something about inclusion and equality in the sort of society that I want to live in and that I want my children and for all of us to live in. I want it to be an inclusive and equal and dignified type of society for everyone.
Well, I think a lot of people who, like me, perhaps grew up in a semi-religious or religious upbringing like yourself, they've been ostracised all these years because of their sexuality, and this might actually give them an opportunity or an inroad to come back to their faith, their community, their family, their legal rights, their social equality.
Jamie, you come stand here next to me. And then Anne, you go sort of back there a little bit.
But even if the federal parliament amended the Marriage Act to include same-sex couples, they still may not have the option of getting married within their faith.
So Anne and Jamie, I've conducted civil marriages and religious marriages. Actually, at the end of the day, I don't think there's any difference between the two in its essence. The day is about celebrating two people and their family. It's about having their friends and family there. It may or may not include God being a part of that process. But really, at the end of the day, there's really no difference. Having said that, as for us, we had Christian and spiritual things in our ceremony. It was very important. But would we get married in a church? Probably not.
I see marriage as two separate things. And maybe it's being a lawyer, that I see it absolutely that there's a state recognised marriage, which I see absolutely no obstacle. There should be no obstacle for gay and lesbian and diverse sexuality relationships to be recognised within that. And then there is the religious ceremony as well. I would like both. I don't want one or the other. I want both. But I think it's unlikely that I will get a Catholic marriage. You know, maybe in another 500 years, but I don't think in my lifetime that will happen.
Family and friends, it's now my absolute honour to introduce you to Australia's newest married couple. And the interesting thing is, once this passes, which it will one day, there'll be a bit of kerfuffle for a little while, and then it'll be never spoken of again. And yet the profound impact it'll have on 1 million+ people's lives is immense, because suddenly this pathway is there for them.
ABC's Compass program is looking for 6 young people to put their faith to the test, to swap places and live by a whole new set of spiritual rules, practices and beliefs. To take part, just visit holyswitch.com.au to apply.